Hello and welcome to this video. This is obviously one of those videos that you might be interested in. It is something that's come out because of various things in the media. So the posts on Twitter, posts in various other social media, plus of course the fact that the Canary have highlighted all of the cuts and changes in the benefit system are the responsibility of the Fabian Society and people that belong to it. Unfortunately, when you have to talk about this, you have to talk about the dystopian plans that are going to go ahead. Well, they've been going ahead for a long time. And how, if you look at this chart, how they're all linked together. You can recognise some of the names in that list there. And of course, the Fabian Society of just one of them. Now, you've heard me talk about the World Economic Forum, WEF. You've heard me talk about that. The Fabian Society is actually just the UK version of that. It's not the same thing. It's different. Obviously, it has the same sort of principles, the same sort of goals. They are unelected and they are trying to govern and bring in a dystopian future, which you could argue is just communism by another name. And unfortunately, all of the major players in the UK, the people in power, they all belong to this society over the years and also currently. They all belong to this Fabian Society. So I'm going to show you some videos now. So the first one is about what they're about and how they came about.
That maybe we should start our exploration of the Fabian Society.
Yeah, so the Fabian Society itself utilized just that very technique, as you just mentioned, what was dubbed permeation theory. To understand the Fabian Society, though, I think it's important to get at what is it and where did it come from. It is something which had really shaped and distorted, along with several other key top-down think tanks run out of London, the entire 20th century. And it was created at the end of the 19th century, which is a very important period. Now, utilizing this method of permeation theory that had been developed by people like Lord Bertrand Russell, a leading Fabian Society member, George Bernard Shaw, who's known as a literary figure, but really was a radical, devout eugenicist. As all of these members, it's almost like a precondition for the most part. You had to have been a radical, devout eugenicist in order to be a true Fabian. There are many others. H.G. Wells, Lord Halford Mackinder, many people whose ideas went on to shape the paradigm of war and division and brutalization of the entire 20th century, including the push for a scientific dictatorship. These were all groups that organized themselves around the Fabian Society. There were different branches to it, in terms of an educational processing factory that was set up in the 1890s called the London School of Economics, which was sort of a zone created by Fabians with Rothschild funding to find talent around the world and process them in the halls of the Fabian, social engineers, and then send them back either to do work in Britain itself or in other parts of the world. The political party that was created in 1900 by the Fabians was known as the Labour Party. And the idea was to just simply do nothing less than completely transform the entire foundation of society under a mass behavioral modification scheme and create a new type of humanity, founded on certain ideas located in the writings of Karl Marx, which themselves repackaged a lot of the core poisonous ideas in the Darwinian system of natural selection. That particular model, and there were many models. It's not like you have to be a Darwinian or a creationist that believes literally in the Bible.
Okay, so this is in Marx's writings that this comes from? Because I've never really heard, I haven't read all this stuff myself, yeah. Just kind of familiar with the general stuff, but I don't really hear people refer to, Marx's writings as sort of having that Darwinian flavor to it. So which can you be a little more specific about which bits you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. Like Marx described on Darwinism, he said that Darwin's work is most important and suits my purpose in that it provides a basis in natural science for the historical class struggle. He also devoted his first German edition of Das Kapital to Darwin. Engels, who was sort of Marx's handler, I don't think Marx fully understood. Kind of like Engels was to Marx what Thomas Huxley was to Darwin, as Darwin's bulldog, right? His handler. Engels had written that Marx was, quote, simply striving to establish the same gradual process of transformation demonstrated by Darwin in natural history as a law in the social field. Now, whether that's true or not, since the Marxist view does postulate that there are these periodic bursts of revolution between the proletariat and the rich, holders of productive enterprises. I don't know if Engels was being all that honest, but the fact that these guys were all basically trying to repackage some core ideas, and the idea of the Fabians was, rather than do things the old-fashioned way, which the British Empire had been doing for, it became really an empire in earnest in the early 1700s. Maybe I'd say even maybe with the advent of the Bank of England after the Glorious Revolution, which involved sort of the deep state of Britain taking full control, and whatever legitimate humanists and nationalists were in Britain formerly were completely destroyed at the end of that process with the death of Queen Anne in 1710 or 1714. But at that point, Britain really became the center control, the hive of this global empire, where it began a process of increasing colonization, the utilization of usury and speculation to undermine its victims. And that process was destructive oftentimes because it necessitated periodic wars, heavy-handed suppression when you had things like, for example, Indians, in the crown jewel of the empire, periodically uprising for their rights and freedoms, and then you had to have the British go down and crush them and kill millions periodically just to put them back in their place. It got very messy, and it was risky for the empire itself too, because by having these wars, sometimes it risked the empire losing control of the system that they were trying to manipulate, or themselves getting blown up. So the Fabian Society method, which grew out of a group that was associated with a group called the Fellowship of the New Life, basically another group of British elites trying to create a new religion, a new type of, it sounds kind of innocuous on the surface, like they want a world where our spirits and bodies live in harmony, and a new world that could supersede the Judeo-Christian sort of matrix, utilizing a lot of theosophical Eastern, like a certain version of Eastern mysticism that they're fascinated by, which I don't even think is legitimately Eastern. I think that they're perverting a lot of it. But anyway, that was sort of what people like Alfred Wallace, who co-wrote or was given writing credits for with Darwin, of writing the Origin of Species in 1859. So he was a leading member of that group. And so out of that group came the more practical political aspect, which was the Fabian Society, just 2 years after the Fellowship of the New Life was created. And Beatrice and Sidney Webb were two among the many, as I mentioned a few of them already, eugenicists and social engineers who were like, okay, let's get rid of this old school heavy-handed approach of overt violence to keep control of the empire, and instead let's use something a little bit longer term. Let's have a longer wave approach to history as we permeate slowly and we'll adapt ourselves and infuse ourselves into everything that has influence everywhere in the world possible, and we'll think increasingly transgenerationally. So we need to have more patience. So the term Fabian that they chose, and again, it was created in 1884, was based on the name of a Roman general named Fabius Maximus, who had developed a technique of attrition, basically destroy your enemy, not avoid head-on assault at all costs, and just simply use attrition. So avoid war, use intrigue and subterfuge as much as possible, cause confusion within your enemy's ranks as possible, but slowly by attrition, when they're weak and they've used up all their supplies, then you can go and attack. You could lay it down. Part of one of the symbols that were crafted by George Bernard Shaw, who I mentioned earlier, was a disgusting rabid eugenicist who called for periodically forcing everybody in the world to justify their existence under a panel of population control, like a population control panel of experts.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can think of some people today who would love to institute that kind of system.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's a little bit too real. When you listen to the writings of, well, I mean, there's this one guy who was, I think, the first person, they call him Dr. Death, because he was the first person to do
nice.
I think he actually takes pride in it, but I forget his real name. But he was the first doctor to do a legal euthanasia in Europe in 1996.
It begins with a K, doesn't it? I can't remember it.
Yeah, it's escaping me
it's right
too.
there.
But he called for this horrific idea of like implanting everybody with some poisonous chip, like that has a fluid that would kill you pretty quickly if you cannot press a button at the same time every day.
Yeah,
so that way, if your neurological faculties ever
if you start becoming senile, then you just die. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about some other things. So I'll play these videos, and you can have a little look and see.
Every senior member of our cabinet, and actually I think pretty much every senior Labour politician, certainly over the last 25 years, have been members of the Fabian Society. And for those who don't know, the Fabian Society is a secretive organisation who believe in communism through evolution, not revolution. Their logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
That says it all.
That says a lot. And then when you look at the UK, what's happening and what's happened, certainly in the last 25 years, if you look at it through a Marxist or a communist lens, things start to come into focus of what's actually happening. And going away from the investment world, you look at the deliberate destruction of families, the deliberate destruction of religion. These are all communist tactics, if you like, because under a communist regime, the only thing that matters is the state. The state provides, the state is all. And you start to sort of join the dots on this and you think, okay, this is what we're up against. And communism's never worked. And I know the comeback to that is, we've never done it properly. That's what left-wing promoters like to say. Well, I'm sorry, it won't work. Communism removes all incentives for anyone to excel or to work hard, and hence the system grinds to a halt.
And of course, another video for you to watch, just be very interesting video.
I liken this online safety act to the Fabian Society, Kevin. The Fabian Society is something that runs deep within the Labour Party, and if people don't know about it, they should have a look at it. Its emblem is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I think this act is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It tries to justify itself on the basis that it's acting in the interest of child safety. The reality is, as you say, it's a backdoor to censorship and to more issues such as that which we see with Lucy Connolly and other what I call miscarriages of logical justice. I think for somebody to be locked up for social media posts when they are letting violent criminals go early and not sentencing rapists of underage girls for, in my view, long enough. We just got all our priorities completely wrong.
And last but not least, this one here.
I think it is. So what we've talked about is a cap on tax-free gifts, which would actually replace inheritance tax. It would shift the tax towards those who receive gifts and inheritance rather than those who actually give them. It would mean that an individual would no longer be able to receive an annual income of thousands of pounds without doing anything to earn it. And I think sort of leaving aside how much it would raise, there's a broader point that's really important to get across. A person's success and prosperity should be dependent on hard work, skill, entrepreneurship. It shouldn't be dependent on luck or crafty financial planning, which is basically what the rules are at the moment. Of course, parents should be able to support their kids, but kids shouldn't be able to get opportunities to succeed in life simply because of who their parents are. So if we believe that Britain should be a country of equality of opportunity, we do need to make this change to make sure that we start taxing gifts and inheritance in terms of those who receive them rather than those who give them.
That's all the information. It is a big subject, and of course the Canary article that I put the other video out goes into more depth into what's going on behind the cuts and how they are linked in. You might want to go and watch that video and then read the article in the Canary. But that is it for now. Any comments down below, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Oh, hello. Sorry to interrupt the video. Just to say that if you're interested in and keen to watch new episodes before they come out, the best way to do that is become a Patreon. And you can do that very simply. Just go over to patreon.com/Andy Wright Online and sign up for a monthly donation, which can be as small as $5. Which is hardly anything. If you think about it, you can probably get a cup of Costa coffee if you're lucky. But $5 a month will allow you access to all of the videos that I'm going to be bringing out in the next few months. And you will get them at least a week early. So you can entertain yourself with the new episodes. Sorry to bother you, but now back to the video.